Good evening and welcome back to coverage of the OLR x VSR Le Mans Ultimate GT3 Championship live on TRTN as we head in towards round 2 of the championship. As always, I'm Regan Clark and you join us here heading away from what action laid us into this championship only 2 weeks ago at the Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium to a first here on round 2 of the championship as we take our first ever visit from TRTN's point of view to Bahrain, here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Founded in 2002 and opened its doors for the first time in 2004, some 22 years ago. It's 15 turns and 3.3 miles of FIA Grade 1. And with a number of scattered events over its 22-year operational lifespan, its two largest events are among the most iconic here in the Middle East. The Bahrain Grand Prix and the 8 Hours of Bahrain from Formula 1 and the World Endurance Championship. A wonderfully varied track that will give us plenty of overtaking opportunities and a great spice of action following away from the home of the Belgian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. And it was great action for this one here, Owen Camus. On screen at the moment in the number 31 on the track, otherwise the number 13 as we follow on board here with this one, making his way down through on track at this time. Taking a look away though from Camus' point of view to have a glance in at the session itinerary for today. Of course, we stare down the last 10 minutes of what has been so far a 60-minute free practice session, qualifying up and around the corner for 15 minutes, a 5-minute break where we'll be talking about the recent developments for the 2027 World Rally Championship grid and the race thereafter. 60 minutes of racing similar to what we saw in Spa with a single mandatory pit stop in force for fuel. And back onto the track at the moment to see that things have started to fall silent in the last 10 minutes here in free practice. On board now with Ruben Thomas, a driver who didn't get to see too much action, particularly speaking, over in Spa only 2 weeks ago. Taking a look at the tower at the moment does reveal to us right now 9 times on the chart here. Actually, no, sorry, only 7 times, with 9 looking to be the case by the end of this session. Ruben Thomas and Wesley Ambrose currently out on track during this time. Taking a look onto the track map here to see nearest to the line is going to be this one here, Jeroen Smits. Down towards the line he goes with BMW. For Smits across the line, stays in a reluctant P3, having a glance in then as he begins another run here of his flying lap. Nearest to the line is going to be Ruben Thomas, who at this time appears to be on something of an outlap. As you can see there, these sectors have yet to have counted for Thomas. Down towards the line he goes to start his flying lap. Also following not too far away then will be the car currently in 4th place. We saw the start of the flying lap there for Smits and Thomas, and the next one thereafter them is going to be Grant Hayworth, a driver with a purple middle sector at the moment. Down towards the line he goes. As it would appear to be the case though, with a grey first and grey final, it could be indicative of a possible invalidation. We see down towards the line though here from Hayworth's point of view, he's going to stay in that 4th place spot as he begins another run in through this qualifying session. 201.886 with his last flying lap just gone as we close in on the last 6.5 minutes of free practice. Before we do though, having a glance into those championship standings, of course we mentioned for that of Owen Camus currently in the pit lane, saw great action to a win on debut to this season and finding himself currently at the head of the field then. Owen Camus leads after round 1 of the championship with Steve Derrick in 2nd place, Jeroen Smits in 3rd, up and ahead of Kellyan Duding in 4th. Rounding out the top 5 at this time then is Grant Hayworth on your screens at the moment for McLaren. Behind him, Wesley Ambrose for Chevrolet in 6th place. Behind them, Marco Altiero in 7th. 8th place behind them, we find that of Kian Hendricks for Ferrari with only 4 points as it currently follows the Formula 1 style scoring system of a top 10 only scoring position. 9th place for Timo Agasayev. Rounding out the top 10 is David Munro. Of course, we saw plenty of action out of Munro, as well as many drivers in Spa at the opening round of the championship. For Munro, it was quite the hectic scene for him, going toe-to-toe with the rest of the field in the Lexus, still one of the immortal designs of this field. We do find that Munro will be back in the session today. We're taking a look at the entry list to find ourselves currently presented with 34 vehicles for the run-in towards today's session, but as it stands to be the case, only 9 of which have got laps in on the charts at the moment. We see for Ruben Thomas's case, the last lap just gone as well for Jeroen Smits was getting ever closer to the chance of advancing on Owen Camus, 2 minutes, 0.562. We've been following here with Grant Hayworth. It's 2 purple sectors at the moment. Across the line a moment ago was the 777 of Ruben Thomas, now starting another flying lap. He's 8th in the session thus far, but it's this one here, Grant Hayworth, that has really snatched away our eye That number 10 McLaren making its way out from turn 15. Down towards the line we go then. And what is it going to be out of this one here? Across the line he goes, and into 4th as it stands. Actually, what happened there for him? Did appear to be the case. 2 purple sectors, right? Obviously a very great start. Then later became a first green sector, as Jeroen Smits now appears to hold the card on that one. Let's go to catch on board if we can here with Jeroen Smits. He's currently on his way down through what appears to be here the run through turns 9 and 10. Very controversial section of this track's design. What is often a bit of a Marmite spot for most drivers. On board here with Jeroen Smits. Purple first sector, so had that one away from Hayworth. These two clashing on the second row. Right now, the closest anyone has to the leading time of the number 13 BMW of Owen Camu is that of Kian Hendricks, the 57 355 thousandths away from the leading BMW. It's a BMW 1, 3, and 6 inside of those valid times at the moment. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty more over the course of qualifying just around the corner from us here. 4 minutes left to go in free practice as we follow on with that of Jeroen Smits. Behind him, you can see there, I believe that is Wesley Ambrose on his tail. Yes, it is the number 332, of which we can see 2 green sectors out of at the moment. These two down towards the line, the 909 and the 332. Smits to the line, so green first, purple second. Across the line he goes, and it was a purple third. So if he can nail that first sector, there is very little to say that he can't have that one up and away from Owen Camu. Wesley Ambrose across the line a moment ago there saw 9th place, 203.685. The case here of Smits v Hendricks, we see that's currently in the scope of about 9 thousandths of a second. Across the line a moment ago when that of Ruben Thomas, if I'm not mistaken here, and we just saw for the Porsche up to, well, it looks to be here 5th place, up and ahead of another Porsche. I believe new to our screens here, this is Jack Moore, currently from the pit lane. He's racing with the Iron Dames Manthey Racing Porsche, currently from the paddock at this time, but he has been outclassed by his fellow Porsche 911, the 777 of Ruben Thomas, in the first form. Makes his way up through on track at the moment towards turn 4. We're getting the track tour here of the Bahrain International Circuit for the first time ever on TRTN later on in the start of qualifying. Nearest to the line at this time is going to be Jeroen Smits on his way down through turn 9 and 10. Closely following behind is going to be that of Wesley Ambrose. It is worth noting, and I'm just taking a quick gander at this here, leaving the pit lane, because we see 2 cars on their way out. Among them here, we see the number 7 of Lee Evans tucked in behind with BMW, and then up in front of him, that is David Munro. Driver we not long ago spoke about, made his way into the top 10 at the end of round 1 of the championship, and the Lexus still defying the odds here, now back onto the track for the last couple of minutes of free practice. Are we likely to see any more drivers make their way out onto the field before the end of the session? That still remains unlikely. Looking to catch on board though with Jeroen Smits. He's on his way down through to turn 13, now to turn 14 and 15. On board with that of Jeroen Smits. Nearest to the line then. It wasn't a great start to his flying lap here, but he has found a personal best in Sector 2. Down towards the line he goes, and I believe the timers are a little bit on the lopsided side there, because you can see that was about a few seconds fast, and it actually was a 2 minutes 8:19. So that puts him up and ahead of Kian Hendricks, having a glance in there by just under a 1/10 of a second. So very impressive stuff there from Jeroen Smits, looking to get ever closer to competition at the head of the field, and things could be sizing up to be a very tight qualifying ahead of us here. Cutting away then from Jeroen Smits, we go to find on board with Grant Hayworth. He's about to start another flyer here. We do know he has been, by looks of it here, beckoned into the pit lane. So he is coming in. Minute left to go. That's Hayworth out of commission here at the end of free practice. Nearest to the line is going to be that of Munro to start a flyer. From behind him, the number 44, Lee Evans, has now gone back into the pit lane himself. So in the closing minute here, we do find ourselves presented with a few more lap times to play with. This is going to be the start of one on his way down to turn 14 and 15 here with David Munro. That's if he can beat the bell by about 35 seconds to the line here. I believe it is likely, but he's not going to be seeing the chances out. He'll wait until qualifying. So Jeroen Smits remains as one of the last on track to be lapping at the end here of free practice. Coming up around the corner will be 15 minutes of quali here in Bahrain for the first time on our screens here on TRTN. A wonderful new destination. Le Mans Ultimate has already seen us to a few new locations, including that of Sebring, which will come up later in this championship here on the OLR x VSR Le Mans Ultimate GT3 series. And This is our first ever visit since our very early days as TRR when we commentated for Formula One races. This has been, I think, about 2 years since our last visit to Bahrain and our first as TRTN. So this is going to be a delightful first for us here, alongside the folks at the Orange Line Racing X VSR group. And with quite the sizable grid to boot here, we did find ourselves presented with about 15 finishing participants on a 20-plus car grid in Spa. Down to the line then, Jeroen Smits down toward the line. Across the line he goes then. 2 minutes, 0.559. The new fastest time at the end of this session, up by 2 thousandths of a second. Jeroen Smits, fastest at the end of free practice. What a valiant time there from the 909. Waiting for the end of this session to arrive. I believe we still have Hayworth down to the line here, and on his way down through turns 9 and 10. Still presents a case here for Grant Hayworth, but you can see that first sector was greyed out, so likely a case that things have been invalidated for the number 10 McLaren, but he will see this one out to the end of this session as the last on track. McLaren down through to turn 11. No, back into the paddock then, so it looks to be the case where in about 30 seconds time, we will get the timers up at the top of our screen. You can see already the timer ticking away on the tower to the left-hand side as we do head up in towards our qualifying session here in just 1 moment's time. Pit lane set to open. We can see already some movement here from one of the new drivers, Jack Moore. Waiting for those timing systems. We can see this is going to be time to perfection here. And now, 15 minutes of qualifying underway here in Bahrain. It looks to be first out of the fray from the number 27 Iron Dames Porsche of Jack Moore. In behind him, Jakob Hale. The number 18 AEX Motorsports Lexus. From behind, we can start to see making his way out there. Is that of Kian Hendricks? Yes, it is. That bright fluorescent yellowish green Ferrari on its way out. Then behind, you can see that properly menacing image there. The number 44, the proper stealth carbon BMW. I mean, it looks like a shadow, that thing. That's Lee Evans and the number 44. In behind him then will be Grant Hayworth and Jeroen Smits, our fastest time setter at the end of free practice. This is going to be a rather interesting one for us here because, like I imagine for many of these drivers, we are treading upon new ground here in Bahrain. Not often a destination we've been seeing racing from GT3 in the past. Now, it has fluctuated around in world endurance for the last couple of years as it would stand, having its first ever 8 hours of Bahrain in 2012. It's seen a bit of a fluctuation of sorts between 2017 to 2019 and could see some complications due to geopolitical issues in the Middle East during this time. It's what ultimately kept us from having the 2026 Bahrain Grand Prix. That's set to hopefully return as things settle down into the next year for 2027. It was pushed back as the first round of Formula One in the last couple of years due to clashes with the celebration of Ramadan. That was then given back over to Albert Park in Australia to be the first round of the championship for the last couple of years, with Jeddah and Bahrain joining on later on in the opening rounds of the championship. It is going to be a very tight qualifying at the front there, and I agree with St. Monaco in chat. It is going to be a very, very close one here. Bahrain, for its strengths and weaknesses and whatever opinion you may have towards this track, does provide some very close metrics here when it comes to those flying laps. It is a track that has been studied by quite a fair few over on Formula One, but will we be seeing much here on LMU? We're hoping for it. So down towards the line, we're on board here with the number 27 with Jack Moore as we head up into our track tour. That rhymed, funnily enough, here of the Bahrain International Circuit. Starting things off then on the run up towards turn 1, 2 and 3. Very sharp first corner here. That's led to many a calamity in multiple different disciplines here in Bahrain before making our way up and around turn 1, immediately into the sharp left-hander at turn 2, then hooks back into turn 3. Easy for the back end of the car to step loose if you're running a much more rough around the edges kind of setup here on board with that of Moore. The first 3 times then coming in over the course of this session will be from Moore, Hale and Hendricks, as it would appear during this time. As we do see that Kian Hendricks maintains his position up and ahead of Lee Evans. Making our way down through this S-bend section here, turns 5, 6 and 7, down towards turn 8. Heavy braking zone here, so this is going to be quite a curious section to study over the course of the race. And this gives us the sort of prelude run up towards one of the most easily recognizable parts of Bahrain's design. It is a real Marmite section of the track here. Curved braking zone out from turn 9. You've got to try your hardest here during a corner to try and straighten the car out for the run through the even sharper turn 10. A double apexed parabolic design very tough to manage there, but he's made quite light work of it there, so fair play to the number 27 on his way up towards turn 11. What would normally be a miniature DRS straight in Formula 1. Now, of course, DRS as a concept is phased out for the straight and overtake modes that we now find. Straight and corner mode, I think is what it is now. I don't know. I can't fathom the new rule set over on F1. It is a bit of a kettle of fish. On our way through turns 12 and 13, on the run to another back straight here, we can see slipstream will be the aim of the game here, so the cars with better top end will be grinning ear to ear to be seeing a track like this on the calendar. And unlike some other destinations with some straightaway sections, like for example Sebring, of which we previously mentioned, this is much smoother, much more well looked after, of course designed for Grand Prix racing. Down to the line from turn 14 and 15 then. The first of our times coming through from Jack Moore. Across the line goes the Porsche, 202.803, our benchmark time of today's session. Then we go to catch on board with Hale, down towards the line, stays in second. Then for, as it appears to be the case, Hendricks has fallen in behind massively, so nearest will be Lee Evans across through to turns 14 and 15. With Moore's time currently the fastest. Across the line comes Evans, then from behind him we see Grant Hayworth. Evans to second, Hayworth now to second. Kian Hendricks across the line, 2 minutes 10.660, so a time to forget for him there. Jeroen Smits on his way to the line. We'll go to catch on board here. That's with the Ferrari. My mistake is we just missed him there on our tab. Now to second goes that of Jeroen Smits, and the first of our times to come on through. So nearest now is going to be that of, not Kian Hendricks, sorry there, Wesley Ambrose, Owen Camus, and as it would appear, Ruben Thomas. It's worth noting for Owen Camus, he was fastest in that middle sector. Fastest first sector is from that of Jack Moore, currently on another flyer here, and the fastest third was from Jeroen Smits. Down to the line, Camus fastest. And a purple sector 2 and sector 3 to boot. The number 13 not looking to be shoved around on track here by anybody. Nearest to the line will be that of Ruben Thomas. From 9th there stays, actually no, sorry, up to 4th. Great hustle by the 777. Nearest to the line is going to be David Munro. On his way down to the line then, 202.027, the new fastest time of the session, and across the line, 205.049 by Munro. 9th in the session. So nearest is going to be Moore, and he was fastest in that first. That's been taken away recently then by Owen Camus, so it's worth keeping an eye on both of these lap times here from the 27, of which we're watching on with at the moment the Iron Dames Porsche of Jack Moore. Looking to challenge what has been a confident lead after that opening round in Spa by Owen Camus. Down towards the line then we go with Moore. Now the fastest time, 201.318 by the number 27. Going to catch on board here with Owen Camus. Fastest first sector. We'll see what he can make of that second sector here on his way down towards turn 11. And nearest to the line, as it would appear, is going to be Lee Evans. And then I believe, having a glance there, right behind him looks to be, yes, I believe that is Grant Hayworth. Down to the line we see from these two. Here's the time for Camus continues to persist there. 5th for Evans, 4th for Hayworth. And nearest to the line, Jeroen Smits. We just missed him there in the nick of time, but Smits now second place. And in that last lap time, still no dominant sector. Purple middle sector for Owen Camus. Now on board with the number 13 on his way down through to turn 14 and 15. From behind him is going to be Ruben Thomas nearest to the line, so he'll be the next time we check on him with. Down towards the line then, Owen Camus looking to retake the gold here from Moore. And across the line, new fastest time, 2 minutes, .568 by Owen Camus. Great hustle so far. Porsche versus BMW really seems to be the defining chapter. Down to the line we go with Ruben Thomas. Up to 5th place there in the last lap. It was a yellow third sector, so there is some room for improvement. He could definitely find himself hustling towards a second row start on the grid today. So far, so good. Nearest is Munro. From behind him is going to be Moore. It's worth noting in the case of Jack Moore, looking at his time there in the bottom left-hand side as we continue to watch with the time now on the bottom middle of your screens here from Munro. It is worth pointing out, Moore was fastest in that first sector. That's been an area where he's been very, very confident. So if he can get himself to stay on that front row with Owen Camus, there could really be some sizable ground here for an advance on those opening couple of laps. Munro onto a new flying lap. We'll go to catch on board, though, with Moore down to the line. It was a fastest first, yellow second, green third, and it's not enough so far finds himself 749 thousandths from the fastest time there in the number 27. Nearest is going to be the number, looking here, number 10, Grant Hayworth. Behind him is that of Kian Hendricks in the number 57. So we see these two times on the way toward the line here. So solid personal improvement. Will it be in the case of Hendricks enough to find him up into that, in the case of Hayworth, they're up into that top 5? Yes, it absolutely will. We see there an exchange for second, Hayworth, then Hendricks. Now second in the session. That puts quite a heavy damper on that of Moore. Across the line, we saw for Jeroen Smits, now second in the session. You saw there reflected on the left-hand side of your screens. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment for him there. Nearest to the line will be Wesley Ambrose and Jakob Hale, followed by Owen Camus. Ambrose 6th, Hale 8th. Camus down towards the line. He had quite a solid run of things down to the line. Can he go over his personal best? 2 minutes, 0.568. Across the line he goes, and as it would stay to be the case, no. The answer there for Owen Camus. Recent developments then for this one here. Jeroen Smits, halfway through this qualifying session, now stands on the front row, second place ahead of Hendricks, Hayworth, and Moore to round out that top 5. Nearest to the line we see here for Ruben Thomas, 202.433, stays in 7th place for the time being. Then nearest to the line is going to be Munro, followed by Moore once again. Seems the sector's having a little bit of a rough time there. I think in the case of Moore, this has maybe come to be somewhat of an invalid lap because it is counting his last sectors there as part of the telemetry. On his way down towards the line, then on board to the number 47, Lexus of David Munro. Stays in 10th place there, 204.069 in the last lap just gone. And then we go to see on board here with Moore out of turn 15 on his way in towards another flyer. 4.5 minutes left to go here in qualifying. Down across the line goes Moore onto a new flying lap. Nearest to the line from behind him is going to be Grant Hayworth, who for but a moment saw the scope of second place away from Kian Hendricks. Hendricks had it back off of him. Then Jeroen Smits put both of them down a peg. We'll see down towards the line, though, as we continue to track Jack Moore's time. Hayworth to the line from 4th, stays there reluctantly so, having been relegated to the second row. Nearest to the line here, Jeroen Smits, and it looks pretty solid so far. Can he go up to the fastest? No, but he is getting very close of it now. 135 thousandths of a second. Recent developments there for another BMW a little further down the line. That of Lee Evans, very recently as it stood there. 201.383, now up to 6th in the session. It's been a lackluster start here for Jack Moore, who's proven himself somewhat of a challenger so far. Jakob Hale nearest to the line here from 9th onto a fresh flying lap for Lexus. Then the 7th place car, Wesley Ambrose, joined there by Owen Camus to the line. And a new fastest lap by Owen Camus. We just found it there, 2 minutes, 0.430 in the last lap just gone. And that wasn't, I would say, even the top end of what Camus can deliver on. That's worth noting there. Purple middle, of course, session best. Personal improvement in Sector 1, but not session best. And then we find a yellow 3rd. So that seems to be the Achilles heel here for that BMW. Going to catch on board down to the line here, Ruben Thomas in the 777 car onto a fresh flying lap. Nearest is Munro. You can see him going very slow off the exit here of turn 13, coiling up for a run. Knowing, functionally speaking, he's got about 2 more to play. He knows he's got just behind him there the number 27 of Moore in pursuit. And this is really going to be somewhat of a last lap dash here. I think he knows he's got about 2 more laps worth of it, but is that going to be a proper reflection of his own energy in this qualifying session? You can see 3 yellows. It was a lap to walk away from there for the number 27 of Jack Moore. Onto another flying lap. We'll stay on with him here as we continue to track times from across the track at the moment. Jeroen Smits will be nearest to the line. Behind him then Jakob Hale with Lexus. Green first sector there for the number 18. Does make you wonder how we've got more than 30 cars, but for some reason we've only got, how many at the moment? 10 of them qualifying. That's concerning. Across the line there, Jeroen Smits stays in 2nd place. Then nearest is going to be that of Jakob Hale. Following from behind him is Owen Camus. Purple middle sector once again, so he keeps breaking the upper limit on what he can do in that middle sector. He's looking very, very strong in that area of the track. The case of Jakob Hale stays in 9th. Owen Camu down to the line. That's the new fastest lap. I think that's just come up there. 2 minutes, .329. So even with 2 yellows and a purple, he was able to raise the bar up over Euro and Smits by 374 thousandths of a second. But more, it has been a very, very troubled start here. Cutting away from their data and going to catch on board with the nearest car down towards the line, then Ruben Thomas. And then behind him, we see that of Kian Hendricks, followed by Grant Hayworth. Recent improvement there to 7th for Thomas, across the line onto a fresh flying lap for Hendricks and Hayworth. So they're in a last lap dash situation between these two. Let's go to catch on board with them. And as it stands to be the case here for Hendricks, believe, yes, Hendricks is back into the pit lane. So that's the end of his qualifying endeavours for Hayworth. He's still out on track. Nearest to the line from behind him is going to be Munro and Moore, both of which with 2 yellow sectors. So really not too much going on there for the 47 and the 27 on the closing chapters of qualifying here for round 2 of the championship. Down across the line there, Munro stays 10th. Moore, as it would stand to be the case, with 2 yellows, unless he can really pull something off in that 3rd sector, stays in a 5th place spot. On board at the moment then with Grant Hayworth, and it's a yellow 1st sector, so concerning start to things here. Jeroen Smits, double yellows at the moment on his way down toward turns 14 and 15. On what looks to be a beaten by the bell situation here. He's got 10 seconds to the line. We've got to catch on board here with Jeroen Smits for just a moment, and yes, he is peeling back into the pit lane. So the 909 at the end of this qualifying session will, by looks of things, settle for 2nd place. We continue to watch here with Grant Hayworth. Nearest to the line is Jakob Hale. We did see moments of it there for Hale, but it was a very early DNF in Spa. He makes his way from turn 15 down to the line, and he is going to take this one all the way down to the end of this session, and across the line goes Jakob Hale, stays in 9th place in the number 18 car. Solid hustle throughout this session so far, but he will stand in towards the back of the field. Nearest is Owen Camu, already reveling in a victory in qualifying, but of course he still has 60 minutes of racing to make do with that qualifying position. Ruben Thomas nearest. We continue to track the time there in the bottom left of Grant Hayworth. For Ruben Thomas, though, things are coming up green for the 777 on his way down towards the line. What can he make of it here? Currently 7th on the grid. What is he going to find himself in by the end of this session? It's 3rd for Ruben Thomas. A remarkable turnaround to his fortunes there. Porsche up on the podium for the start of round 2 of the championship. A very solid hustle indeed by Ruben Thomas. I believe we, as it stands, yes, still have one more time here to set, as we now see the end of the session there. Hayworth, I should say, is now into the pit lane. Munro on his way down through turn 14 and 15. Is he diving to the pit lane? He looks to be taking this the full 9 yards with Lexus down towards the line. Can he get ahead of Hale for 9th place? Down to the line he goes, and it's 10th at the end of qualifying there. Great hustle nonetheless for the 47. So precariously still only 10 qualified cars of what I'm told is an entry list of north of 30 drivers. Now that is deeply concerning. Looking away then from this qualifying session, Owen Camu on pole position with Jeroen Smits in 2nd, Ruben Thomas to a surprise 3rd at the end of that session. All in all though, 6 cars front to back by less than a second, the whole top 10 by less than 3. As we head up into round 2 of the championship. And so, taking a look away from this qualifying session so far and back in towards the itinerary, coming up in a moment's time, will be a 5-minute break in which we'll be talking about the current lineup for the 2027 World Rally Championship grid, and then thereafter a 60-minute race, I should say, there, following with a single mandatory pit stop for fuel.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
As you heard there, beckoned to the grid will be our drivers so far. At the end of this qualifying session, we wait to see then the arrival of Owen Camu, and whilst we wait for the start of this race, actually a little bit closer to 4 minutes worth of available time here to us, having a glance in at what is going to be of the 2027 World Rally Championship grid. Well, discussing that at the moment, the teams that have already confirmed entry to next year's World Rally Championship: Toyota Gazoo Racing, Project Rally 1, a brand new privateer group, and another brand new privateer group, RMC Motorsport. Now, it's rumoured that Project Rally 1 will be using Skoda parts, but rather precariously in the introduction of the Rally 2 to Rally 1 kit car conversion in line with the 2027 2027 regs, Skoda has directly denied the endeavours to build a Rally 1 from their existing Fabia Rally 2. That's been the same sentiment carried by Citroën, Hyundai and Ford. Now, of course, with Hyundai and Ford, they already have Rally 1 projects with the i20 and the Puma, but this is where it gets rather confusing because Hyundai has yet to confirm they'll be doing Rally 1 next year, and so too has M Sport, noting, and this is quite interesting to mention, there is a possible sale of Ford assets away from M Sport. They may be getting taken under the wing by BYD. This could represent a very curious turn for the M Sport team, a much-needed change in investment for that group. Now, another group that is yet to confirm right now and has been quite vocal about their interests in pursuing Rally 1 endeavours has been Lancia. Their Ypsilon Rally 2 in the hands of Gryzin and Rossell has already proven itself more than capable in Rally 2 alone. It seems then for Lancia, they'll be looking at their first top-of-the-line competitive car in Rally 1 sometime in the next couple of years, whether it's next year directly based off of the Rally 2 to Rally 1 kit car conversion as mentioned before, or if they are planning to go fully bespoke with the Ypsilon and create a purpose-built Rally 1 platform off of it, remains to be the case. But that would be their first top-of-the-line competitive entry since 1993, if I'm not mistaken. So a very, very long time in the making there for Lancia. And so just before we get on into the race then, having a look at the grid so far, Owen Camu on pole position with Jeroen Smit in second, Ruben Thomas in third, Ken Hendricks in fourth, Grant Hayworth in fifth, Jack Moore in sixth, Lee Evans in seventh, Wesley Ambrose in eighth, Jakob Hale in ninth, and David Munro in 10th. Worth noting, the rest of the grid doesn't appear to be joining us at this time, and I think this is a case where the rest of the grid gets loaded in, but you can see them in the paddock. They don't appear to be coming out at all. A very curious case indeed. We only find ourselves presented, by looks of it here, actually, with 10 cars. We're about a minute out from the start of this race. We'll leave you on board with the drivers for just a moment's time as we do get ready to rumble here in Bahrain. On board with Owen Camu, back in a moment.
Formation lap has started.
As you hear there, the formation lap underway on the run down towards the line here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Making our way down towards the line then. Owen Camu, hungry for further successes. We can see joining us towards the back of the field there, the rest of our top 10. A much smaller than life grid than one would have expected for today on our run down towards the line then here in Bahrain. 10, 14 and 15 ahead of us here. Making our way down towards the line then. 10 cars in attendance, 5 on either side of which you can see the full grid there front to back on our way down towards the line here in Bahrain for round 2 of the Orange Line Racing X VSR Le Mans Ultimate GT3 Championship. The first time ever we are green and racing here in Bahrain. A great start from that front row right off the bat. BMW versus BMW on the run up towards turn 1. Following in behind them then Ruben Thomas trying to hold his ground off of a double-pronged assault by both Ferrari and McLaren. That's Hendricks and Hayworth. As now we see here, Ruben Thomas side by side and up at ahead of Owen Camu. It's Jeroen Smit to lead, and now it's Thomas of the exit of turn 3. A brilliant start for the 777. Breaks away from the BMWs, and after a very confusing start for many, it's Ruben Thomas to take the cake there up the run towards, by the looks of it here, at turn 4. An exemplary start then by that 777 up and ahead of Owen Camu. Jeroen Smits makes third. Kian Hendricks currently holds on to fourth behind. And we see there Grant Hayworth and that of Jack Moore. Behind them, Wesley Ambrose in seventh, Lee Evans in eighth. And then the two Lexus cars at the back of the field, but one of them much closer to a gain of position than the other. We see there Lee Evans makes contact with Wesley Ambrose. Recent troubles there between the Corvette and the BMW on the run down through. We see there, that's Jakob Pell getting up and ahead of Wesley Ambrose. A disastrous start down the order, but one that has been quite starkly contrasted with great starts here for the Porsche of Ruben Thomas. Owen Camu in hot pursuit then. He is not particularly pleased to have lost that position out so quickly here. And taking a look at that grid progress, up 2 positions then for both Monroe and Thomas. Down 2 positions then is Wesley Ambrose. Down 1 position are both the leading BMWs of Camu and Smits. A very, very troubled one there for Owen Camu. He is not used to having that recent challenge, but last of the late breakers there on the anchors was the number 777 Porsche 992 GT3R. The first form, number 777, Ruben Thomas on a brilliant, brilliant start then. Having a look down the line here to see the ongoing rivalry between these three here, Hendricks, Hayworth and Moore. We saw in the case of Hendricks and Hayworth, there was a very close time in qualifying between these two. They were contesting at 1 point second place. See up in front there, that looks to be Owen Camu going for the inside here on Ruben Thomas. Can he have it up and away from turns 1, 2, and 3? The same area where Thomas was able to get the leg up on both BMWs. We see a little bit of a skittish run there through turns 2 and 3. And now that invites in Ruben Thomas to come back up and alongside for the run up to turn 4. This is absolutely spectacular stuff here in Bahrain. For our first ever visit to the Kingdom of Bahrain, this has put on quite the show. 3 minutes into this race and already plenty of action in this smaller than life grid. That does raise many a question though over exactly how much of the grid are we expecting to see here when you have 34 cars sign up. Technically 33 when you discount ourselves. And only 10 of them are making it here. Of course, it has still provided us with some great battling, but there is always that wanting feeling. Seeing here a recent fight developing between another Porsche, this one being the 27, the Iron Dames car of Jack Moore. Up in front, definitely worth noting here the advance of a very recent squabble for the race lead. Of course, Owen Camu was part of that one with Ruben Thomas, but we see the arrival here of Jeroen Smits. Look at a catch on board here with Smits' point of view. Number 909 in hot pursuit then of what is currently the fight for the race lead between himself, Owen Camu, and Ruben Thomas. 2 BMWs and a Porsche head to head. I believe there may have been some trouble down the line, I'm told, for that of Evans, but he's already, in the words of a viewer in chat there, I believe that is Robert Ogan over from VSR. That is, apparently he's already buckled. And I believe that might be in relation to the contact he had between himself and Wesley Ambrose. It's worth noting also here, just quickly worth the mention, that Jack Moore has now fallen to 7th place, away from Hendricks and Hayworth. We see going for the inside run down at turn 1 here. That's Owen Camu on the right-hand side. Over on the left-hand side is Ruben Thomas. It's red versus blue here in Bahrain. Right up alongside them then is the 909, getting another angle here from the BMW, barreling down towards turn 4. Got to catch on board, though, with that of Owen Camu. Going for the inside now ahead at turn 4. Then on board to that of Ruben Thomas. He's been the challenger so far in this race, and on board with the Porsche 777. On our way down through to turn 6, 7, 8, and 9. But just 6, 7, and 8 there. On the inside at turn 8. Now on the run up towards turn 9 and 10. The BMW will be back to the inside here between these two. This has already come up to be quite an interesting battle so far. Owen Camu's got the inside in towards turn 9 and 10 here. The number 777 washed out wide, but then get a great switch back in there from turn 10. So brilliant run so far by Thomas versus Camu. This is already bringing Smits back into the mix there. You can see him right up along with them on the run up towards turn 11. In behind them, you can see Kian Hendricks in that bright yellowish green Ferrari. Number 57, not too far away here. If there is a spillover, and it very likely is the case there will be, given how close these three have been, I count it only a few more laps here before something goes awry. We can see plenty of support in chat there from the folks over at VSR, and I'm saying that very sarcastically for that of Lee Evans. This has so far occupied our time here in the opening 7 minutes of round 2 of the championship. A brilliant start then by Ruben Thomas. Unmistakable form from the 777 Porsche, but it's not done quite yet, as we see here going on board with that of Owen Cameron. That's actually the rear camera. He wanted to get these side cameras here, but sadly you can see he's just in the blind spot on the run up towards turn 1. So Ruben Thomas now finds himself in to second place, looking to hunt down that position. You can see just over his right-hand side. Now ahead, so back up and ahead here. The camera's not doing us the best of favors, but what it is revealing is this Achilles heel for the BMW cars. If they're on the inside in towards turn 1, they are not going to stay ahead by turn 4. They keep routinely losing the ground off, and it's worth noting in the background as well, of course, with Owen Camu in second place. You can see right behind him is your Rowan Smits and now Kian Hendricks as well. This is on board at the moment with Hendricks. He's got a clear line of sight on both Beamers and the Porsche leading that charge up towards turn 8. We've seen so far it's been a very enthusiastic opening 10 minutes here in Bahrain. Watching here from Hendricks' point of view, he's not too far off a stab of the driver in front. Looking at those intervals so far, among the closest fights on track is the one prevailing over the top 4 during this time. Hendricks still in pursuit. I think we've got to get a look back up on board with those two leading cars here. This has been a story of red and blue. And there's a likely chance here. This continued fighting in the top 3, of course, has already invited Hendricks in, but there is not too far off a stab to suggest that Grant Hayworth and Lee Evans could be dragged into this fight as well. They are not too far away. As it would happen, we see trying for the inside there, the number 13 of Owen Camu. That's left him out a little bit of less ground available off the run of turn 13 there to your Rowan Smits. Now getting closer, he's in the slipstream on the run up towards turn 14 and 15. Of course, these two BMWs find themselves quite level for straight line speed. And it's the Porsche out in front that's their primary target here. Trying to catch on board then with that of Ruben Thomas. Taking a look over his rear view camera, you can see the BMW of Owen Camu closing in slowly but surely there, sneaking up on him. The BMW in the slipstream has already got the better straight line speed, so cutting out towards the wide cameras. In towards turn 1 we go between these two on the inside. The question is, can he hold it? This has been his Achilles heel. A bit of a step out there from the Porsche. That is definitely going to help things along for the number 13. Off the exit of turn 3, third time's the charm there for Owen Camu. Now back up into leading form. Ruben Thomas still holds second, but looking for the inside here is that of Rowan Smits. On the inside and towards turn 4, behind them is Hendricks. But just with a very wide exit line here, and that's one of the best parts about Bahrain for these lower divisions like GT3. Anything that's not really Formula 1 stands up quite solidly here. Just given the amount of space they've got to play with, makes for quite fantastic battling we've seen so far over the course of this round. Having a glance in behind here, Smits under siege from Hendricks. We followed with the 57 for a moment not too long ago, but he is closer than ever to the chances of a fight up on the podium. Meanwhile then, Owen Camu tries to carve out some distance from Ruben Thomas, about half a second off the exit of turn 10 into the first 10 minutes of racing. You can see there off the exit of turn, I think that was turn 11 there, in towards turns 12 and 13. Very heavy wobble on that rear end. The BMW not the most stable for some reason here. Ironic given the fact that the BMW, of course, being one of the front engine cars, usually are among the more stable variety. Now, it's even worth noting with our experience over on ACC that could tell you much of the same here. BMW much sharper around the edges for your average front engine car. They're trying to get that sort of center of mass as close into the middle of the car as they can. There's so much so that they've got the engine almost sticking through the dashboard. It's a case of they're trying to pack as much of that inline 6 in behind the front axle to try and give the car as much rotation as possible. We see here the BMW of Euro and Smits. Now challenging for the inside on the run up towards turn 1 here on Ruben Thomas. Behind him is Kian Hendricks. Up through turns 2 and 3 up towards turn 4. I'll have to try that one again on board here. You can see just over the rear wing, actually almost perfectly eclipsed by there. That's a better view of things. Is Hendricks in behind, looking for the inside though on Thomas. Goes the BMW number 909, nearly contact between the pair of them. That does actually, as it stands, invite in that of Kian Hendricks. Oh, we're going to catch on board with here. You can see from the Ferrari's point of view, this is in the fight for second between himself, Euro and Smits, and Ruben Thomas. It is worth noting the presence of another fight at this time. The two Lexus cars at the back of the field are clashing heads here. Jakob Hale versus David Munro. Off the exit there of turn 8 up towards turns 9 and 10 here in the middle sector. They're side by side. From around the outside there goes Jakob Hale, but he is out of ground at turn 10. No, he isn't. Great move there from the number 18. Held things out strong. Solid overtake. Back up at the head of the field here, Thomas. Now putting some distance up over Euro and Smits. He knows that his goose is proverbially cooked here because he's 1.7 seconds from that leading Beamer. One of the real defining attributes of Bahrain as a circuit is just how well lit it is here. It's nighttime as we're recording here at Bahrain. Of course, it is one of the hottest destinations in Formula One, and I say that quite literally. The 2005 Bahrain Grand Prix was the hottest on record, well north of 40 degrees. Ultimately, that race is why the Bahrain Grand Prix runs at night, and most other major events run into the evening. Going for the inside there, way late on the brakes. Where is the 909 off to? Euro and Smits on a kamikaze lunge at turn 1, ultimately forfeits ground to both Ruben Thomas and now Kian Hendricks. In behind, Grant Hayworth sizes a chance here over Euro and Smits. The two barrel down towards turn 4. McLaren on the inside, BMW from the outside. Smits is going to have the better exit ground here because of how wide turn 4 is. That sets him up for turn 5, 6, 7 and 8. Down through this S-bend section now. This is where the McLaren will have him on rotation, but he's done well to recover it there. VSR Twiglet and Chow asking, why is half the grid in the pits? Didn't this happen last time? I'm just as confused as you are. And in the interest of not wanting to mention much of it on stream, I think that's the last we'll speak about the grid at the moment. There's going to be words after this event. But taking a look in here, super close fighting going on up for second. This is Thomas v. Hendricks. Hendricks has been waiting long for this one. Currently on the outside of the run through turn 11. He's trying to set himself up for turns 12 and 13, but he's just out of ground after turn 11. In behind, we are noting Evans v. Moore on the cards at the moment. Following on board here, this is Jack Moore versus Lee Evans. 6th place currently under contention. Up in front, you can still see ongoing during this time has been the fight way up ahead there for second place between these two. Out behind, still ongoing then, is the fight for that of 6th place during this time. Evans is looking vulnerable. It is worth noting this down the opening straight just off the exit of turn 15. Looking to cover the inside off here from Moore. He's on the outside line, way late on the anchors there. There's the BMW on the inside of him. They rub doors off the exit of turn 1 into turns 2 and 3. The 44 holds ground up and ahead of the 27 in the battle for 6th place. Will the Porsche be looking for a bit of a loftier lunge in towards turn 4? And I get the semblance in the Twitch chat at the moment. We've got multiple people, colleagues, of course, of Lee Evans over on VSR that are was it hate watching, I think is the case at the moment. We're seeing them kick off in chat. I mean, I got the mental image in my head that there's almost like a little pub table there sat around hate watching this like a football match. It is quite entertaining to see down in the Twitch chat during this time. But we still see the ongoing fight here between the Porsche and the BMW. Now, this is not to take away from the fight going on up at the front of the field. Having a glance up ahead towards Hendricks v Thomas. It does actually pick up into a brand new chapter here, because now with all three of these drivers, you can see the distinct gap there just as the cameras went out wide. Was about 3.5 seconds between Thomas and Camus. As it is worth noting, Jeroen Smits is back in the mix after his suicide lunge through turn 1. That was a bit of a lofty one there for Smits. He's fortunate not to have collected anyone and created an incident of his own there. Further down the line. It is worth noting here in the case of Evans. Actually, yes, it is the case here that Moore is now up and ahead of him. And that's Wesley Ambrose up and alongside here. We make our way just from turn 13 into towards turns 14 and 15. Wesley Ambrose could be looking for the inside here. The Corvette, no slouch whatsoever. This year's Le Mans 24-hour winner, the Corvette Z06. The C8, 8th generation Chevrolet Corvette, first of the mid-engines. 5.5 litre LT6 V8 engine. Same boffins behind the Camaro GT4R and our various GT4 series here on TRTN. And the masterminds behind the Corvette, Pratt & Miller Engineering. Oh, it's contact between the BMW and the Corvette. Lee Evans is vanquished at turn 1. His wheels gone off the car. There it is. That front right's completely gone. Oh my goodness gracious me. Sadly, we can't go to the replays on that one, folks, because Le Mans Ultimate doesn't like it when we do that. It will destroy all of our graphics, which isn't fun. And neither is this for Lee Evans. He has now been downgraded to a Reliant. As it would stand to be the case, but he is doing his best Michael Schumacher impression. He's lost a wheel, but he's going to try and make his way to the pit lane off the exit of turn 4. That is trouble. And trouble indeed for Evans. It's worth noting here in the case of the overall grid right now, we started with 10 cars, we're down to 9 because the absence now of Jakob Hale. He's out of this race. And we see there the 44, without much a leg to stand on, spins around at turn 4. Could this be the requiem now for Lee Evans? It certainly looks to be the case here. 550,000 euros a unit there for them M4s, and that one's been reduced to a tricycle. He's into the pit lane. That's him, sadly, out. So 2 DNFs already, down to only 8 cars left with 42 minutes on the line. S-Mates are in chat asking, why is everyone hating on Evans? It's not specifically everybody. The people who have been doing it, just for some context, in case you might be wondering if you're in the Twitch chat at the moment, they're all his colleagues. So they're having him on, taking the mix, sort of classic British banter, so on and so forth. We do see here recently Hendricks closing on Jeroen Smits. Now it's worth noting that Smits now got up and ahead of Kian Hendricks in the time we were watching there with the incident between that of Wesley Ambrose and Lee Evans. As it stands after nearly 20 minutes of racing so far, Owen Camus leads over Ruben Thomas. Jeroen Smits in 3rd, Kian Hendricks 4th at the moment, fighting with Jeroen Smits on the run down towards turn 1 here. Behind them, Grant Hayworth in 5th, Jack Moore in 6th, Wesley Ambrose 7th, Devon Munro in 8th. 2 DNFs so far from Lee Evans and Jakob Hale. Very recent troubles indeed. Currently among the closest fights is the one you're seeing here, the fight for 3rd place between the number 57 Ferrari, of which we're on board with at the moment. This is that of Kian Hendricks. He's fighting with Jeroen Smits in the 909 car. Making our way up and around here, the run of turn 8 up towards turns 9 and 10. 57 still in hot pursuit. We'll see what he can make of it over the course of the next couple of laps here following on board. Now, it is worth noting the drivers will have a mandatory pit stop in this race. We will be seeing the likelihood of it come up around 10 minutes from now as we get into the halfway mark of round 2 of the championship. Making our way down through to turn 11. It's worth noting there for Hendricks, he is starting to hemorrhage a bit of ground. You can see almost same distance here emerging between Hendricks, Smits and Thomas. And that once again sparks up the hope here for that of Jeroen Smits, with a chance to go and fight with Ruben Thomas, who I would say has been, for all intents and purposes, one of the MVPs of today's performance thus far. I mean, that start, no one could have called that one. That was Absolute cinema from that Porsche. Once we've got a bit of free space here between battles at the moment, I'm sure many of you have seen the rumours circulating the possibility of an IMSA crossover with Le Mans Ultimate. Of course, it was teased by the devs themselves, a July 4th update of sorts, or a big announcement coming up on July 4th. So at the time of recording, that's tomorrow. And what was the major giveaway was the positioning of multiple stars in that image. You cross-reference that with a map of the United States. It comes up with, oh, never mind, away from the investigations. That's your Owen Smits. Turned around. He spun himself out at turn 4. Well, S-Mites, if you're here to support your Owen Smits, I'm sure you're in great distress now. And my sincerest apologies there. That's commentator's curse catching up on us here. Your Owen Smits down towards 7th after a recent slip-up. So that does leave us at this time 8 cars remaining, 38 minutes to go. And presently, as it would stand, the closest gap to any 2 cars is 1.2 seconds and growing between Hendricks and Thomas. So we'll get back into the conversation surrounding Le Mans Ultimate and its possible crossover with IMSA. Now, from what memory serves, there was overlapping locations. Now, sadly, I can't name all of them off the top of my head. I'll have to grab some of that information a little later on during this broadcast. But of the ones that it overlapped with, there was notably Daytona, Laguna Seca, and Long Beach. Now, we here on TRTN already have our own ambitions to make the move over towards iRacing, which of course is the sort of largest platform for IMSA-related content in esports during this time, in the time of recording, 3rd of July 2026. But a crossover with Le Mans Ultimate will certainly open up doors here for us as we continue to make that transition later into next month, as we do have the announcement now that the upcoming NLRL Cup Series is likely to see a delay to August due to insufficient grid size. Now, that will be the last change that happens, according to what I was told personally by Race Control. That's still technically not been signed off, but there is a very likely chance it will be getting delayed in towards August. That's when we'll be able to get on with some NASCAR content and therefore onto iRacing. But if we can get into the door on some of the iRacing related content with the IMSA Sports Car Championship and its related tracks before that point, that would certainly be quite great. There may be a pipeline further down the line here for more Le Mans Ultimate content here on TRTN in the next couple of months. For reasons I'm not at liberty yet to go into, but there are things going on behind the scenes that could invite in some more LMU content from us here. As it has been a bit of a concerning day, being brutally honest. I think there's been somewhat of a massive oversight in communication. Now, from what I understand, there was 15 cars actually officially registered to this grid. We have what appears to be the case of 34 cars. So for all intents and purposes, that's the entire entry list of sign-ups to this championship, most of which haven't been used. So we have a huge wad of cars rendered on the grid that are just not doing anything. That is concerning, I would say. Speaking of concerning, what's concerning for Hendricks is this one here, Grant Hayworth, and he is closing in by less than 2 seconds, but the gap has now opened up north of 2.2 seconds between Hendricks and Thomas. It has started to shrink here between the McLaren and the Ferrari for the fight of 3rd place. After that recent calamity for Owen Smits that saw him spin at turn 4, sadly, we can't show it on the display here for those asking in chat for the fastest laps, but we can show you, we can tell you, sorry, the data that we have at the moment. Fastest lap at this time is from Owen Camu, 201.162. And as it stands, the last lap just gone from these drivers, as it stood there. So, sadly, it only shows the best lap. So, in terms of the upper limits to their performance, it is worth noting that Hayworth has about 2 tenths on Kian Hendricks in their best lap. So if he can consistently hit towards that mark, he might find himself in with quite a fair deal here. It is worth noting, in the pit lane at the moment, serving what appears to be their mandatory pit stop, is Wesley Ambrose. And I've only just clocked this now. It took me a while to figure out what that livery was, but that is really quite an attractive looking livery. It's Red Bull, obviously, but I don't know what flavor. It might be, I'll tell you what it might be. It might be that new, was it Fuji Cherry or something like that? It was the summer edition, the new one for 2026. You see there, that is the gap, 5.4 seconds physically displayed to us there between Owen Camu and Ruben Thomas. It is worth noting, now of course we did speak about the gap growing between Thomas and Hendricks, but it is worth pointing out now from what was about 2.2 seconds here, is now fallen to less than a second after a bit of a slip there through turns 11 and 12. Looking on board with Kian Hendricks, this is the view from the Ferrari at the moment on a run down through turn 13. Up towards the last two corners of the track, turns 14 and 15, just a distance from here. He's closing in and closing in hot. And unless Ruben Thomas has some kind of strategy to see himself into the pit lane shortly, this could be his run of second coming up shortly. Both of them electing to stay out by looks of it at this time. And I believe that is the same story for the car in behind them, that of Grant Hayworth. You can see there the McLaren off in the distance, but it is worth noting, getting closer and closer and closer, is that of Kian Hendricks. Watching here from Ruben Thomas's point of view, trying to hold off an advance by the Ferrari. You can see there down through to turn 1. The inside was let up there between the 777 and the 57. Up and around turns 2, 3. Now to turn 4 in a moment's time. Looking over the rear view there. Once again, the Ferrari pokes to the inside. It's got just ever so slightly more rotation in some of these sharper corners. Turn 4, now to turn 5 and 6. Then to turn 7. That Porsche's wobbling bad here. That's a great sign for the Ferrari. In towards turn 8 we go. Going for the inside at turn 10, the 57 nearly had the run there on the 777. Differing lines, now giving over plenty of advantage to this one here on board with that of Kian Hendricks. You can hear it faintly there, the squealing of the tyres on that Ferrari. So the Porsche may not be holding up so well, but the Ferrari isn't either. So taking a look at the moment. The first of those pit stops being served by Wesley Ambrose. It still remains a question as to who will be seeing their run into the pits next. It's nearly contact there between Hendricks and Thomas. By the looks of it there, Ruben Thomas maybe floated the idea of going into the pits. The biggest gain of position we've seen so far then for that of David Munro. Up 3 positions from the race start. Started 10th, now 7th. In the pit lane at the moment, it is worth noting for that of Jack Moore. So he's our latest into the paddock. Goes to number 27. The Iron Dames Porsche just misses his pit box there, but is now himself into the pit lane. Question for Munro, will he be staying out? By the looks of it, yes, is the case for the number 47. Now getting up and ahead of Moore. Moore's on his way out, so a very quick stop there for the Porsche. Having a look in behind, it is worth noting, this has been somewhat of the doomsday scenario here for Hendricks, because in his efforts to try and squeeze up to second, he has now left himself wide open for this one here, Grant Hayworth. All of this fighting is doing Owen Camu a world of good. He's 7.1, now 7.2 seconds up over Ruben Thomas. His recent spat with Hendricks has forfeited more time away, and now we're about to see here for Hendricks and Hayworth the possibility for these two to lay in a double-pronged assault onto that Porsche up in front. Making our way down to turns 14 and 15. It's worth noting here, Owen Camus, past the halfway mark, continues to lead in this race, is yet to come into the pits. Thomas, by looks of it, staying out. Hendricks following suit. Same story for Hayworth. Owen Smits may be next in line here. He's off the exit of turn 14 and 15. Down towards the line he goes. Is looking to stay out. As it stands then, the gap starting to shrink on all sides between Thomas, Hendricks and Hayworth. Porsche, Ferrari versus McLaren. Great colour combination between these three as well. Proper eye candy here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Following here, getting close is Hendricks. He is trying to put a bit more pressure into his performance now. He is getting closer and closer by the standing of it. It's in this middle and final sector where he's starting to lose more time out. That first complex of corners has been quite solid for the Porsche, but the rest of sector 1 is where the Ferrari has started to feed more time back in. As it stands, neither of those three still considering options to the pit lane. The honours would then fall onto the shoulders of this one here, the 909. "27 minutes left to go here in Bahrain." Looking back in then onto the point of view of these two, especially down through this opening sector here, we saw a bit of a crunch through turn 1, then into turn 2, and now it starts to feed back out. As we mentioned, this is where the Ferrari has been able to close in the last couple of laps. We'll see if that'll be the case here on the run through turn 4. You can see Concertina effect brings it just south of a second once again. 1.1 seconds on the run up through turns 5, 6, 7 and 8. Through turns 5 and 6 here, and it's this sort of run in towards turn 8. It's the run from turn 6, 7 and 8 there, where we're starting to see physically on track the gap coming closer to one another. There, the back end of the Porsche letting loose again is proven to be quite a major struggle here for that of Ruben Thomas, fighting against the machine that has put him so far in a second place in this race. It's a major step in the right direction as far as things stand for him after Spa. A little bit wide for the run in through turn 13. Through to turn 14, we see the Porsche once again out a little bit wide here. This could be the opportunity for the Ferrari to strike. Alternatively, could be the best opportunity for the Porsche to dive to the pits. He doesn't get the opportunity now, so they will be side by side on the run down the opening straight here for the fight of second. Thomas v Hendricks. Hendricks has the inside, but it's worth noting how strong Thomas has been in the opening 4 corners. Down through to turn 1 we go. The Ferrari gets up and ahead. The Porsche still to the outside. Now back in behind him there. Parks the bus off the apex. And the Porsche steps out wide to the 57. Kian Hendricks now to second in this race. That does open the gap up. You can see the McLaren closing in hot there. That is Grant Hayworth in 4th. And he has got a chance here to seize the opportunity away from Ruben Thomas, having recently lost out that second place spot. The Porsche now 3rd in this race. Continuing to watch here then with a fight for what could be a return into second place. It is worth noting that second and third sector for the greater part of this race has been a strong point for the Porsche. Only recently then, as the tyres have started to get on in the midway of this race, just past it, has that 777 seen routine troubles. Soldiering on still, though, is that of Ruben Thomas. Much against the machine that now exists in spite of him. And I believe we just got information to hand of a spin for the car in fifth. That would be for Owen Smits, the number 909. You see a considerable distance there. There was another spin for him in the background, I'm told by a viewer in our chat, during the watch on with this fight. Now you can see an equilibrium between second, third and fourth. Almost equal distances there from the point of view of Ruben Thomas. Up toward turn one we go then with that Porsche. Ferrari still holding ground out in front of him. We saw this was an area of contention in the last couple of laps here for Ruben Thomas. Ultimately the place where he lost out that second place because he got too eager onto the throttle off of turn one. See there, that's the Ferrari. Ferrari in the wall. That's of Kian Hendricks in the wall there. Trouble. He's all the way off in the gravel. And we saw the car just from the onboard there of Ruben Thomas. He snapped out violently. The car kicked him in the opposite direction, and he's gone all the way out to the tyre wall, even so much so into the gravel trap just before it. And now, without his rear wing, Kian Hendricks is a deer in the headlights. We see it down through to turn 9 and 10. Nothing to guide the rear axle. And that 57 has seen the podium drop away from him. He's also recently just seen there, as getting up and ahead of him now was Owen Smits. Was the opportunity for fourth fizzle away as well. The most recent of our casualties. We saw it, the last one to be Lee Evans, who after contact with Wesley Ambrose lost a wheel, ultimately tried to soldier on through turn 4, spun again, was out of this race. We see in the background again there, that was Kian Hendricks. And a heartbreaking end for a driver who showed a lot of promise today. But it might not yet be over for him. He is still soldiering on here, but it will be with great difficulty to see him to the next 21 minutes of race remaining. And we see again, even in these shallow corners now, like turn 12, the car will not stay straight. There's got to be a point where he throws the towel in, but he's not willing to give up just yet. What will it take for that Ferrari to give in? A recent development to that now to leave Hayworth v Thomas on the cards for second there, 1.9 seconds, and closing through turn 1, 2 and 3. From the McLaren's point of view there, we see now 1.9 seconds as it stands. For Hendricks, this has been a very, very tough day for him with the recent developments of it there. A real roller coaster of emotions for the 57 as he makes his way in to the pit lane. So he has done quite well to get the car into the paddock there, and hats off to him for doing so. Into the paddock goes Hendricks, but he is going to be in there for quite some time indeed. As it stands to the case, Moore will move up into 6th place, and for Wesley Ambrose, he's not far from that opening straight. We saw him into the pits not too long ago himself. 20 minutes left to go in this race, and he is about to see a rise in position. Hendricks, currently 7th, having lost out that podium, has fallen way down the order and could now fall to the back of the remaining field of cars to the Corvette here off the exit of turn 14 and 15. Down to the line he goes. A very bizarre engine note with that Corvette, I should point out. 5.5 litre V8 engine. Of course, we discussed it in the last couple of broadcasts here on the Modern Ultimate, wherever the Corvette has been present on the grid, and Ambrose has been one among them. We saw where there was 2 Corvettes over the course of round 1 of the championship. It was a case where it's a very bizarre design because, of course, a mid-engine Corvette had been floated since the 1970s with the Chevrolet Aerovette concept. It was only until its 8th generation where Chevrolet decided to commit to the idea of turning their premier sports car into a proper midship super. And it has been a development gamble of the ages. It has been almost a cultural betrayal to the ethos of the Corvette, but it has been arguably the biggest rise in performance for the Chevrolet Corvette in the last couple of generations. Now, it had a very good run in the C5 and the C6 in the American Le Mans Series and in the predecessor to the IMSA Sports Car Championship. It had a very good run there. The C7 was an all-right motor as well. We saw it compete in the World Endurance Championship in the now legendary GTE era. There was that fantastic battle a few years ago at Le Mans between Aston Martin and Chevrolet for the win in GT. And this new Corvette has got some real promise to it. Delivered on this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans win. Moreover, was part of that double-header win in the IMSA Sports Car Championship at the Detroit race, where it was Cadillac to win in GTP and Chevrolet to win in GTD. It was all-round joy for that of the General Motors group, for a win very close to home for them. Just under 18 minutes left to go. Right now, as it stands to be the case, I believe here, has that been a bit of trouble for Ruben Thomas? Yes, it has. Catching on with Ruben Thomas has revealed some startling new information there, as he has fallen down through the order. Hayworth now second, Smits third, Thomas now fourth, and you can see with damage in tow. I believe we might have the opportunity here to go onto the timeline and see when abouts did this actually occur for Ruben Thomas. Having a glance in here. This is following with him here. Yes, down through, as it would appear, to turn 6 and turn 7, actually, just before turn 8. This is a few laps ago. Not a few laps ago. It was earlier this lap, I should say. I'm being silly there. But that's what happened for him. That is deeply concerning for this one here. He does find himself now barreling down towards the opening straight. Will he be coming in to take that mandatory pit stop? Now, of course, that's what we were told, that there was a mandatory pit stop in this race. We do have information there. We did actually see him in the background that Kian Hendricks is back out on track, but he is a minute down to the nearest car. And taking a look to where that respectively lies in the race lead, that is a lap in behind Owen Camus. Taking a look then at the progress as we drop into the last quarter hour of racing. The highest riser of the grid so far has been that of David Munro. He's into the top 5 with Lexus. You can see behind him there is that of Jack Moore, the number 27. Not too far away from him as it would stand. Another high riser in today's session, Grant Hayworth. 3 positions up from the race start, now on the podium. And second in between both BMWs of Owen Camus and Jeroen Smits. There's been quite the troubling day then for the DNF cars, such as Lee Evans and Jakob Hale, but it's also been quite a troubled day then for the remaining cars of the grid, the 57 of Kian Hendricks. It is good to see, though, the car patched back up. He's back into this race for the next 15.5 minutes. We'll leave you on board with Ruben Thomas as things continue to develop from the point of view here of the 777 Porsche, having recently seen trouble down at turn 6 and turn 7. We'll stay on board with him here as things progress and be back to you in just a moment's time. So with Thomas maintaining his current stead of fourth, 13 minutes coming up on left to go in this race. Going to catch on board with Owen Camu at the race lead. It's lonely at the top for the number 13 during this time, looking at consecutive victories since his inaugural win at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps 2 weeks ago at round 1 of the championship. And taking a look at what the road ahead may hold for this series. Away from here, the number 13 of Owen Camu, watching on now to see what the rest of the calendar is looking like. 4 more rounds after today, with Sebring, Fuji, Le Mans and Monza among the current itinerary. With numbers like these, it is a concerning sign. Indeed. I'm sure there'll be somewhat of a word from race control after this race. We see the number 13 barrel down towards turns 1, 2 and 3. It has been quite a stellar race so far then for Owen Camu. Meanwhile then, Grant Hayworth in second place. A very strong result coming the way of the McLaren. If he can hold his ground ahead of Euro and Smits by the end of this race. He's 12.5 minutes left to go. So functionally speaking here, with lap times in and around the low 2-minute range, we are looking, as it would stand there from the point of view of Owen Camu, at roughly speaking there, about 7 more laps of racing to follow from today. Looking around the field then, currently no fighting going on during this time. The closest of the gaps does appear to be that of Jack Moore to David Munro. The 78, otherwise the number 47 on track, out through turns 1, 2 and 3. Not far behind him then, as it would stand to be the case. About 3.8 seconds is the closest gap between any 2 cars during this time. Is that of Jack Moore. Ten and a half minutes left to go. We do note into the pit lane went 3 of the cars, then Hayworth, Smits and Thomas during this time. We're looking to go real last of the pit stop runners here in the case of the number 13, as well as the 47, the 27 and the 332. Of course, we saw for Ambrose, he has already been into the pit lane, as the case of Hendricks also having been into the pit lane. We do see for Munro now in. That does admit, for the time being then, Jack Moore up towards 4th place in this race. Up in front of him will be that of Urian Smits. But still no word yet from the race lead. He has been remarkably silent on any endeavours to run into the pit lane so far. And Camu, having led nearly every single lap of this race, of course, had that exchange between himself and Ruben Thomas in the early laps of today's race. And that was the most eventful part of round 2 so far, bar none. That was a brilliant exchange he had between himself, Urian Smits and Ruben Thomas. That 3-way split for the race lead kicked off to a very, very strong start. staying out then with 8.5 minutes left to go for Owen Camus. Those recent pit stops seeing Hayworth stay in second place for the time being. We do see behind him there trying to unlap himself from the rest of the field is Kian Hendricks, who at one point battled in the pack with Hayworth earlier today. Taking a look then at those pit stops. Actually has been a case where Owen Camus has come in, so he has been that far ahead of the grid. He has not had to worry too greatly. 8 minutes left to go. In terms of the nearest gaps on track, there is 2.7 seconds currently between Munro and Ambrose. Ambrose having taken his pit stop far, far earlier than David Munro. The number 47 is closing in on the 3:32 during this time, but 2.9 seconds quickly becomes 3. Thank you there to S-Meitzer in chat. This is something that we didn't necessarily pick on, as we saw from Hayworth and Smits, and at that metric as well, Thomas during that time. We didn't actually clock there that Owen Camus was part of that lap for pit stops. It is worth noting, speaking of Smits and Hayworth, it is a case where 2.4 seconds and now closing currently the interval between these two. So there is very likely then the chance for an interception. We can see in between Hayworth and Smits at the moment, that is Kian Hendricks, a lap down after his trouble down at turns 6 and 7, trying to get himself back out and ahead. Our way down through to turn 14 and 15. BMW still a little too far away to size up anything here. He's just hoping that Ferrari can stick his neck out a little bit further and possibly get in on the inside of that McLaren. Doesn't look to be the case though on the run down towards the next lap going. 6 minutes left in today's race. Hendricks all the way out to the right, I believe it is letting the BMW on through. Yes, we do see it there. And there the Ferrari now filters back in behind as we head up through turn 4. So now nothing left to stand in the way between Hayworth and Smits during this time. 1.7 seconds as they round through turns 5, 6 and 7. Here on the run in towards sector 2 in Bahrain. 5.5 minutes left to go here in today's race. This is the closest gap between any two drivers at the moment. It could boil down towards the line between these two here for the fight on second place. Is it going to be a BMW 1-2 here in round 2 of the championship with a consecutive victory on the line here for Owen Camus, or could it be the first of McLaren's rise up towards second place? Of course, we did see for Steve Derrick 2 weeks ago, made second at the end of round 1 for Ferrari, if memory serves rightly. Sorry, my mistake. No, that's Steve Derrick from back in MSC's LMU series. No, he was with Porsche during that time. So Porsche has already seen a podium this season. BMW have seen the most amount of podiums. Currently, if they finish where they are, that is a BMW car on 4 podium appearances. First and third in both. This will be looking at McLaren's first, not if your Owen Smits has anything to say about it, and by the looks of it, there is certainly plenty he can say on the run up towards turns 14 and 15 here, not too far behind then the recently lapped number 57 will be a spectator to this ongoing fight. Oh, S-Meitzer in chat was the one who made the livery here on the 909. Of course, this is the looking here, P4R Passion 4 racing cars. We now see side by side, front and rear quarter as it stands. The McLaren does have quite a lot of top end to give. And we see here for Grant Hayworth holding his ground up and ahead of your Owen Smits in towards turn 1. But Smits has the inside. McLaren with better rotation and then better exit. Puts them side by side now into single file of the exit of turn 2. Into turn 3, you can see the BMW sneaking back up over the curbs. It's a bit of a cheeky move there, but still alongside is your Owen Smits on Grant Hayworth. On the run up towards turn 4, this is where it could all boil down. Later onto the brakes there for the BMW, that McLaren will have the better exit of 2 in turn 4. That's not going to stop him. Jeroen Smits up to second. 3.5 minutes left to go here in Bahrain. Through turn 6, now turn 7, up towards turn 8, and he's got the distance here to avoid a counter-attack from Grant Hayworth. So great move, all things considered, by Jeroen Smits. Now to second. Taking a look as well, there is definitely worth the argument here. Thomas v Ambrose side by side into turn 4 as it stands. The Corvette from the outside, Porsche on the inside. This is going to be far closer on the run through the S's here at turns 5, 6 and 7 between these two. Watching on board at the moment with the car currently defending that position. Ruben Thomas having moved up into 5th place here. Of course, he did see his own fair share of troubles down in this section not too long ago. Keeps the Corvette at bay during this time as he takes up the helm of 5th. A double take for Porsche, courtesy of Moore and Thomas. Not if Chevrolet has anything to say about it, and it really does seem to be the case here that Wesley Ambrose does on the inside at turn 10. A great bit of side-by-side action here between the Corvette and the Porsche. Ambrose now up and ahead on the run up towards turn 11. Has got the ground here, but there we see the Porsche flick to the inside, but didn't have the stopping power to go toe-to-toe with the, not the Camaro, I almost said the Camaro, the Corvette. Very used to covering Chevrolet's other products here, but that Corvette is on flying form now in the closing minutes of this race. Here in the fight for 5th place, Ambrose, having played a very early pit strategy today, looks poised to continue this fight with Ruben Thomas, who was a very early challenger to that race lead here in Bahrain. As we close in on what is going to be, by looks of it here, among the last laps available to us for racing today. I think in the case of the number 13 currently leading that charge, we will be seeing one more lap out of them, as if I'm not mistaken, they are likely to cross the line before that timer runs up. So in the case of these two, it is going to give them one more lap after this one just now. Up towards turn 1 we go in that fight for 5th place. Doing well to hold out strong then. Here's Wesley Ambrose. Looking over the rear view here, on board with Ambrose. Nearest to the line then, Owen Camus. Can he beat the bell? I mean, with 35 seconds on the clock here, there's absolutely the chance. Heading down across that start-finish line then. We'll be seeing one more lap out of the number 13 here, so this is going to be somewhat of a victory charge for him now. Here on the last lap of racing of round 2 of the championship. Across the line he goes, onto one more flyer here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Meanwhile, looking down the line here, Jeroen Smits, in the exit of turn 15, rounds into his last lap, going in his continued fight with Hayworth, now having put 2.7 seconds on him. Meanwhile, for these two, further down the line, Thomas still in pursuit of a top 5 finish here in Bahrain. 6 tenths and closing on the Corvette in front of Wesley Ambrose. The run up towards turns 14 and 15. Charging up towards turn 1 for the last time today between these two. Very solid exchange, all things considered, in the closing moments of today's race between Corvette and Porsche for control of the last of those top 5 spots. We are on the last lap now, has been confirmed there in the top left-hand side of our screens, as well as, of course, the timer we have at the top of our screens here on TRTN is making their way through to turn 13 now, on board with the leading car here of Owen Camus. It has been a very, very solid performance from him all round today, making his way down towards turn 14 and 15 here in the Kingdom of Bahrain for our first ever visit to the Bahrain International Circuit, making his way down towards the line from turn 14 and 15. He spins. Owen Camu spins the car. Can he get it down to the line? That was quite a heart in the throat moment there, but he's still got plenty of buffer space to see himself down to the line, and across the checkered flag he goes. Fortunate that that could have come a lot sooner in the race for him. Owen Camu wins in Bahrain. And that was certainly a frightening exit for him there, I'm sure. Had that been a few laps earlier and a little bit closer, that would have been his race done. Across the line then, Jeroen Smits to second. Grant Hayworth to see McLaren's first ever podium in this series. Across the line in the number 10 car. Third place at the end of today's race. Hendricks across the line there to 8th. Jack Moore to the line to see Porsche in the top 5. And at the end of their battle, it's going to come down to the line between these two here. We can see all the way on the run down through to turns 14 and 15. Wesley Ambrose versus Ruben Thomas. It all comes down to this. Turn 14 comes up now. Now turn 15. You can see the Porsche. Much better run of 2. Tries to get the hammer down. But down towards the line, it is going to be by a hair's width between these two. 5th place for Wesley Ambrose. 6th for Ruben Thomas. The last down towards the line then to see 7th place David Munro. Another top 10 finish with Lexus. At the end of today's race, Owen Camu wins in Bahrain. Jeroen Smits in 2nd. Grant Hayworth in 3rd. And Jack Moore in 4th. Wesley Ambrose in 5th. Ruben Thomas in 6th. David Munro in 7th. Kian Hendricks in 8th. 2 DNFs then. Jakob Hale and Lee Evans in today's event. That's all from us here on TRTN here in Bahrain. Taking a look back on that calendar for what comes up later in this series. On July 17th will be the next round at the Sebring Raceway in Florida. We've been here before with Le Mans Ultimate over on MSC, so it's going to be exciting to see what that holds in store. Then Fuji, then Le Mans, then Monza. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. If you're joining on with us tomorrow evening, Continental Racing League Season 2, Round 2, as we get back into action with those lot going live from Spain. And then on Sunday, we head back to the NLRL Sunday League Season 6, Round 7, live from the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. That's all from us here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.